Host Zoe Michaels, and we are here with our guest Samantha Tschritter, and I'm semi butchering
Yes.
her name. It's not quite right, but I'm close enough.
You did great. It's great.
And
Samantha Tschritter.
thank you for joining us this evening. Quick
Thank
word
you
of
so much.
warning to the audience: we both have dogs. Mine is new, so there's a chance for a little bit of background noise, and if that happens, I apologize in advance. But we'll get on topic here. So Samantha here is a writer,
I
and
am.
do
Yeah.
you have a lot of books, or how many books do you currently have out?
I don't know enough that I'm not sure.
That's a pretty good number in my way of
I
thinking.
guess. So I started, my first book was about miscarriage. Unfortunately, my late husband and I experienced several miscarriages. And so I was journaling, and then the journal turned into a book that ended up helping thousands of other women and still is. It's called Love Letters to Miscarriage Moms. I have co authored some devotionals, which are faith based. And then I've, like, my first love is fiction. I've always wanted to write fiction. So even though I have these other nonfiction grief related books that are out, like I have a miscarriage journal for people who want to work through their infant loss. Um, Even though I have all these other books along the way, I've been writing fiction. And then last year, a publisher was talking to me, and she's like, "Hey, what do you have going on? Like, do you have any stories? Like, whatever." And I was like, "Well, I have this romantic suspense that's kind of hanging out in the closet, like just waiting for me." And she's like, "Well, let me take a look at it. Let me read it." And so she read it. She's like, "Hey, I want to publish it." I'm like, "Okay, all right." So March 31st is when that book comes out. But yeah, I've contributed. My bio says that I've written over 40 books or contributed to over 40 books. There's a difference. Um, and I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry.
No, I think
Uh,
it's fantastic.
okay.
Please go on. It's
All right.
interesting.
So my bio says that I have contributed to over 40 books because for a while I was interviewing people and writing their stories from first person. That was a freelance job that I did. So about 19 of those books, I have like one chapter a piece in each book, but it's someone else's story, which actually I went through a boot camp to do that, a writing boot camp, and it taught me how to be a better writer. So that was kind of crazy. But yeah, so I'm really excited about this romantic suspense that's coming out in March, and I can't wait for people to read it and tell me what they think.
Absolutely. I have to say, on a personal note, I am very fascinated by this idea of this writer's boot camp and writing other people's stories. You and I are going to have to talk about that more later, just on a personal
Okay,
level.
that
Um,
sounds great.
'Cause I have to admit, my books, I never had any professional training. I just jumped in feet first with my books and told my stories. And, you know, I've learned a lot since publishing them. but
Right,
I have a
right.
lot more to learn, I
My
think.
my first book was like that. The miscarriage book, Love Letters to Miscarriage Moms. I just wrote it and got it out and published, and then a publisher picked it up, and now it's better. It's much better.
Yeah.
Because when I look back, I'm like, ah, don't read that one. Don't read that first version. Uh,
I get that. I still love my stories, but I can only imagine they're like diamonds in the rough that if a publisher got a hold and had professional editing would shimmer like a real diamond.
right, exactly. I definitely learned a lot because I brought that book to a writers' conference thinking it was the next New York Times bestseller, and it was not. Then it was not the next New York Times bestseller. So it's all good. For me, it was just about getting my truth onto the page for my own heart,
Yes.
and then along the way, I was also able to help other people in doing that. So it's been a blessing to do that.
Yeah. It's funny how our hearts get so involved in what we write. To us, it is exactly what we intended it to be, and we are in love with our work. And it's sometimes hard to let go and let someone else edit and make suggestions and change. Um, I actually have an in law. She's passed away, but she had this work that she worked on for years, and she was very much against any of the suggestions that were made to edit. Um, and so I think
Mm.
published her book posthumously for her. But you know,
You did publish it
I believe
posthumously
I
for her?
believe I believe he did. That's what we
Okay.
had talked
All right.
about. But if you know, if only she had listened to that advice, I wonder how many more books she might have published.
Or like seen it to fruition. When I worked for that publishing company, it was called Good Catch Publishing, and I was like, there were like 70 something authors that were applying for these six positions. And so I was one of like six people chosen. And then four, like two of us they narrowed it down even further. And then I wrote my first story thinking I was fantastic because I was chosen out of that many people. And I wrote my first story and the editor edited it. And it was like 70% read, 70% track changes. And I was like, are you sure you chose the right person? Because I don't understand. I don't understand. Like if I'm one of the ones you chose out of 70 people and you're still editing me that much, like, and that's what I call the writer's boot camp because she was so hard on me, but my writing just like grew off the chart exponentially. Like my craft just got so much better because of that. Learning how to be edited is a skill in itself because that first time you're like, oh no, you're wrong, but they're not wrong. Um, and so I actually kept that first document with all the track changes on it. And sometimes I find it like come across it. I'm like, yep, that made me a better writer to be able to be edited. So
There's a lot to be said for that. It comes down to maybe a level of humility because you have to be willing to take that information and adjust based on that. And it applies
mhm.
across so many different things beyond writing. I mean, in any job, in anything we do in life, we're never going to be perfect right out the gate. We're never going to not need some level of correction. And,
Right.
it's the same thing with writing. There's always going to be room for improvement. Even the most beautifully edited works that I've seen, I've still caught errors as a reader and have said, oh, they missed that. There's always
hmm
something there.
My 11-year-old daughter found a typo on a restaurant menu the other day. I was so impressed by her.
That is impressive.
She's like, Mom, they spelled this word wrong. I was like, you're right, they did. They absolutely. So that was really funny.
Yeah. Well, there's that whole fatigue when you've read something and read something and read something. It takes those
Yeah,
fresh eyes sometimes to catch things that are glaringly obvious to those fresh eyes, but not to those of us who've seen it over and over again.
exactly.
Yeah.
They
So,
talk a lot about not editing yourself. Yeah, go ahead.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's okay. So you've written several books, and I'm gonna just put a quick blurb in here because you've got a brand new book coming out. Did it just come out, or is coming out when?
January 1st,
Okay, so it
if you're
just
talking
came out.
about my brand new book,
Yes.
just came out. It's been live for 7 days.
Okay. And it comes under that faith-based genre, which is why we're not talking
It
about it
does,
in this broadcast because I don't do anything faith-based. But I did want
which
to
is totally
give
understandable.
you that
Yeah.
courtesy of letting our audience know that for those of you who like faith-based publications, you might want to check out Samantha's website for more information or look her up, do a Google search on Samantha Tschritter. And I'm going to spell it
Yep.
because even though our names are below our screen in our recording, I've noticed on my YouTube the names don't show up. So her Tschritter for our audience is Tschritter, Samantha Evans Tschritter, for those who are looking for her and her books.
And my website is pretty easy. It's loveunedited.com.
Love
So you can
unedited.
go, yep, loveunedited.com. You just go there and it has all the books that I've published so far and my newsletter and social media links and all those things. So feel free to follow me there. I have a book next to me if you want me to hold it up for just a second, but
Yeah,
I
if you
don't
want to
need to
just
do that.
show our audience really quick for
Sure.
those who are the faith-based
So,
folks.
oh, that's the yuck. That's like the don't not for resale version. Here, this one.
Okay.
This book came out January 1st, and it's currently on the Amazon bestseller list. So
Sounds
we'll
good.
take it.
All
We'll
right.
take it.
So yeah. So just for those who want that type of thing. Now, you and I are going to talk more about what's coming down the pipe in March. So you're talking about
Yes.
romantic suspense. Tell us about this book.
So when I was writing my other book, it was nonfiction. It was really hard. I had to deal with addiction and drug abuse and things like that. And so when I was writing it, I needed a break from writing the truth, writing the hard stuff. And I was writing fiction along the way. So there were some days where I would only write like 2 paragraphs from the nonfiction book. And then I would come back and I would just work on stuff that made me happy
Yeah,
because the other one
makes
was not
sense.
making me happy.
Yeah, too
Hmm.
heavy.
Uh, it was really heavy. So I just, like I was telling you before we started recording, like I love fiction. It's my first love for writing. My goal is to write fiction books that I'm not ashamed for my daughters to read or not embarrassed for my daughters to pick up. Quality work doesn't use sensationalism in order to sell the books. So I wrote this romantic suspense. I put it in the setting of a town in Minnesota that I used to live in.
Okay.
And I just started thinking about, what would it be like if someone from that town had gone away and then had to come back for some reason, and then the ex-boyfriend from high school was there. And so it just kind of went from there. So yeah, I liked basing it off a real place because then like the details are real and true, and that
Yes.
makes it a little bit more authentic, I think.
I agree with you on that. There's a book that I haven't even started truly working on in earnest yet, but the outline of it, um, kind, it's a blending of two or three different stories that are real life to me from family and friends, and it's located in Northwest Indiana and Chicago, which is where I'm originally from.
Okay.
So a lot of details are, from that source for the same reasons. Just
Where
that.
in Chicago are you from?
So Northwest Indiana. I'm from
Okay.
Chesterton, Valpo, that neck of the woods,
All
Portage.
right.
That we're about an
I grew
hour
up in
southeast of Chicago.
I grew up in Naperville, Illinois,
Okay,
actually, and went to school in Minnesota. So we were only a couple hours apart, I think, at
good
that
stuff.
point. Hmm.
Who knows? Maybe we were at Marriott's Great America to get at the same time. Back when before it was
Yes.
Six Flags.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
I'm guessing that maybe you're a little bit younger than me. I'm not sure, but that's my.
I went to Six Flags a lot.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I'm 44. I don't,
yeah. You're
yeah.
you're about a smidge younger. Young
Okay.
enough that you probably remember Six Flags more than Marriott's.
Yeah, probably. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I went to is Six Flags.
yeah, yeah. So I was in the age right before they sold it to Six Flags.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, a little bit of history there for you. Museum of Science and Industry and all the great stuff in
Mm-hmm.
Chicago. Loved
Mm-hmm.
Chicago.
Yeah,
Lots of good memories
definitely. Me
there.
too.
But yeah, that area. Growing up, with Lake Michigan. I mean, we were there right by the beach, in our corner,
Mm-hmm.
so we'd always go to the beach and be like, "There's Chicago across the way," and
Right.
loved it.
And so you were saying that you're working on a book that's set there?
Yes, I titled it "Once Upon the Same Day" is what I'm gonna call it. That's the title,
Okay.
um, and it's basically two people who lived so close but never interacted, never met each other until they were adults. Even though they were born in the same hospital, within days of each
Mm.
other, they lived very close. Maybe they were in two separate high schools in the same town. They were all in the same spots, but never met each
Mm-hmm.
other until they came back from a trip out of the country and were on the same plane together. Is kind of where I'm
Okay.
starting that whole story, and
I like that
based
premise. That's good.
yeah. And it's actually based on my aunt. My aunt actually had a similar experience. She grew up a
Okay.
couple towns away, but same, in Northwest Indiana. Um, the man she married, actually, she was coming home from a trip from Germany, which is where she actually got to go on a class trip because my grandfather worked at the high school there in Portage. So she
Okay.
got to benefit from that.
I
So
like that.
on the flight home, she met the man who she wound up marrying, and it was just the loveliest uh, inspiration for what Once Upon the Same Day is going to be.
I like that a lot. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah.
All
So
right.
yeah, it's
So
just
have you written a lot of that fiction or no?
I've written a lot of it. I have yet to start the editing process on it. But I've got a lot of it in my computer, along with a bunch of other stories I have in my head and outlines for, and yeah,
It sounds like you have a writer's heart, writer's brain, like just always, there's always a story in there that wants to be written.
kind of so. I kept it pushed down for a long time. I focused my writing, in the work world for a long time. When those gates opened up last year, I've got a whole list of in my phone of, ooh, here's another idea for a story. Ooh, here's another idea for a story. And some of them I've started working on. Some of them are just ideas floating out there that I'll get to. The hardest part is to slow down and focus on just one story. And I had someone tell me back last spring, do that. Slow down, take your time. You don't have to write them all at once because part of you wants to.
Right. I mean, you can, if you work better doing pieces at a time, like do what's best for you. That's one of the things I've learned is like a lot of experts have a lot of ideas on how things need to be done. Or like when I talk to writing professionals, some are like YouTube, YouTube, YouTube. Another one's blog, blog, blog. And the difference is like YouTube worked for that person, blogging worked for that person, Amazon is working for this other person, but they're the variable in the story. And so you have, like, I've had to figure out what works for me and what's best for me because it's not, all journeys are not the same. And so if you write better, like in pieces, then I would say just write it in pieces.
And that's
You have
kind
my
of
permission.
where I started off with because I think it must just be a product of the age we're in. But,
Mm.
we're just so easily distracted and we're, taught we do one thing for a little bit, we do another thing for a little bit, we do another, so I tend to write that way. I'll write, this bit of a story this day because I'm in the mood for romance, this bit of a story another day because I'm in the mood for, science fiction. And so I do
Hmm.
tend to kind of jump around in my ideas and thoughts.
I mean, that's what I was doing with my nonfiction and my fiction when I needed a break from one or the other. Or if you have part of the story in your head, then you need to get it out before it goes away. So you
True.
got to stop and like, oh no,
You're
don't lose it. Don't
absolutely
lose it.
right. Oh my goodness, yes. Because I would totally kick myself if I forgot some piece of the story I wanted to tell. Which is so why I have my notes on my phone too, because when they hit, you don't want to lose them. So you like, do a voice memo or do a quick, this is the idea for this. Yes. Something to jog that memory. So when you work, do you try to do, I don't know, some people try to do like several paragraphs a day or a set period of time that they write. How does your workflow go?
My workflow has changed a lot since I hired Mickey as a publicist.
Nice.
Just because now I'm doing so many more interviews and I'm writing articles for him and filling out interviews and all sorts of stuff. So my job description has changed a little bit in the last couple of weeks, which has been interesting. Before that, I would try to spend like 2 days writing, just writing and doing nothing else, and then a day doing social media and trying to plan some of that stuff out because I felt like my writing brain just needed to stay in that space. Like when I deep dive into a story, I go into the story. So like when my kids ask for something, I'm like, "What do you want?" Because it's like a choke collar that pulls me back into reality. Like I'm just in a totally different zone. So I just try to stay there in that space, and I'll just write for hours as much as I can possibly get done in that time. So
Very
yeah.
cool. So I'm curious because, like you said, there's so much advice out there about how to write and how to market and so on. And so, I subscribe to various newsletters, and one of those is saying, it's like marketing. People do research and say, okay, what kind of stories do people want? Do you buy into all that kind of thought process, like researching in advance what the market wants versus just telling the story that you want to tell?
I mean, I feel like the story on your heart that you have to tell or the story that you want to tell is going to sell better than trying to force yourself to write something for an audience that you're not feeling. Like the story that you have is going to sound better on paper. And I think there's a market for almost everything at this point. Like I'm seeing a lot of closed door romance stuff, but that's kind of the space I'm in on Instagram, and I think I'm almost looking for those people, so I'm seeing more of that content.
Makes
You know how
sense.
like with the way the algorithm
Yeah,
works.
for
But
whatever
if
you're
I was
looking for.
writing right, if I was writing sci-fi, I'm sure I'd find plenty of sci-fi people on Instagram too. You just because you find what you research. So,
And that does make sense. That absolutely makes sense. And like you, I'm a big fan of the closed door romance, clean romance. Let's
mhm,
leave some things to the imagination. Let's just
mhm,
get down to the heart
right.
part and forget about the bedroom stuff.
Do you ever get discouraged with your stories? That are you worried that there's not going to be a space for them in the market when you're done with them?
I feel like maybe my biggest challenge is making sure I've put them in the right genre when I'm trying to, put them in Amazon or different sellers. I've been actually quite asking myself that question lately about one of the books I wrote last February. I've got a clean romance book. At least that's how I marketed it.
Hmm.
Based on the song. Do you know the song by Rupert Holmes? If you like pina coladas, Escape. Okay, so my book is kind of based. That's the inspiration for that book. Love Lies and Pina Coladas is my book.
Okay.
I'm wondering if maybe because it is clean romance, that maybe I should have done it under a different genre, like just like drama rather than romantic. So that's where I go back and I question myself and I second guess. I'm thinking, okay, am I not drawing the market I'm looking for because I've got it placed wrong, or what can I do to get the audience I'm looking for? So that's
And
for my own personal.
that one's already on, like it's already published and ready to go for
Yeah,
people to buy.
on
All
Amazon.
right.
I did put it with an independent bookseller down in Georgia. I have yet to get it in other bookstores, which may also be my challenge.
There's a lot of static on Amazon. I've written multiple books, and the Prodigal Son, the one that just came out in January, is the first one that's ever made Amazon bestseller list, to my knowledge, because you have to like keep track and look it up sometimes. But
And is
yeah,
that in part because of your publicist that's helped get it noticed, or
I think so. I mean, because I'm doing more of these interviews and like I've done a few TV appearances and I'm doing magazine stuff, and so I'm just trying my best to get out there. And I think like the more places you're able to talk about yourself and talk about what you have to offer people, and like the more they resonate with your writing, the better off you'll be.
that would make sense?
So
And that's an area I still need to really invest in, is the publicist side of things. Aside from doing podcast interviews early on last spring, which actually helped facilitate a lot of emotional healing for me with the situation I told you about before we started recording.
yeah.
That was like great personal benefit just in talking about that particular book and the issues that I had dealt with that
Hmm.
led to writing all the other books.
Here we are. Yeah.
It just, I have, beyond that, I haven't really given it much consideration other than causing it to launch this particular podcast. So
Nice. Well, like you could also, I don't know if you, a lot of authors are doing well with the closed door romance, like even hashtag closed door romance
oh, I
on
like that.
Instagram.
had not thought about that.
And all they do, like if your Instagram account was nothing more than a 4-second reel of you reading your book, and then you had a quote from the book,
Yeah.
like that's what a lot of people are doing. And then it takes longer than 4 seconds to read the quote. So you're getting multiple views on your reel while people are reading about your book. And if you're putting your favorite quotes up, then it makes people want to buy the book.
I had
That's
never
my new
thought of
secret. I
that.
haven't started doing it yet, but that is my new secret.
Well, I appreciate you sharing that with me.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to try that. I love it. It's like finding a recipe. Ooh, I've got to try that recipe. I love
I hope
cooking.
your viewers are going to enjoy this conversation. It's all about books and writing. I'm such a geek.
Don't feel bad. There's nothing wrong with that. And the goal of my podcast always is to make our listeners feel like they are flies on the wall of a conversation that hopefully that they are interested in. And that's the beauty of the clips.
Right.
They can see, oh, okay, this conversation is about this, and yes, I am interested, or no, not my style. So, mission accomplished. We're having a great conversation, and I think we're both having fun with it.
We
Yeah.
are. I'm
Okay.
enjoying it. Yeah.
Shop
I
talk.
mean,
Gotta
I
love
don't,
it.
yeah. I I love this part of it, like meeting new people and just talking to people. That's been really amazing, and it's probably been better for my family and my marriage too, because before, when I was just in my head writing all day and doing marketing, my youngest would get home from school and be like, "How are you? How was your day?" Like give her all of my verbal words because I hadn't talked to anyone all day long. So this kind of feeds that for me.
Well, that's a good thing. Yeah,
So
sometimes it's nice to have
yeah,
an extended conversation that's an actual conversation,
right.
a little bit of adult talk, along with the kids. The kids, they need their love and attention. Have this thing we call quality time, but it's so different than from when, like, you and I grew up. The amount of time that we
Hmm.
spend maybe one on one with a parent, doing an activity, talking. You know,
Hmm. Do you have kids too?
oh, I have this stepson, the most wonderful good stepson, but I can't take credit for how good he is. His mother raised
Okay.
him really, really well. I got to benefit from him staying with us for extended periods, and I hope I had a little bit of input into him, but I can't
I'm
take
sure
full
you
credit.
did. That's really sweet. I like that for you.
Yeah, I'm very happy to have him. He was the thing I most appreciate about my time being married to his father. So
I
yeah,
get that.
he's
Yeah.
a good. You know, I actually taught him something that a friend taught me, and that was the idea of what it takes to be a good conversationalist. A lot of people think being a good conversationalist means that you talk a lot, and he, like his father, came to me talking a lot. And I trained him that the art of being a good conversationalist isn't in the talking, it's in the asking the questions and inviting the other person to talk.
Right. Which is why you're such an amazing podcast host. Here we are.
Here we are. Although I feel like I maybe am talking a little bit too much here.
Well, I'm asking you questions too, because I'm also good at conversation and doing interview. Like I was doing interviews as a profession for a while, so I know how to ask a good follow-up question.
Yeah. So tell me about that. Doing that as a profession. What profession?
That was so I did some what do you call that? Oh my gosh, I just totally spaced out. Freelance writing. I was
Oh,
freelance writing for a
okay.
publishing company.
Okay.
I don't, did we talk about that live or before we started? I'm not even, I'm not sure.
Oh,
We were talking
no,
for a while before we actually hit record.
I don't
So
remember.
just in case I wasn't talking about it,
Yes.
um, I, for a while, no, it was because you asked me how many books I'd written. I worked for that publishing company and I was interviewing people. So I spent a lot of time just talking to them, and then they have the basic questions that they had to answer on paper before we had our interview. Then, as the conversation progresses, like it doesn't stay on the page. It doesn't follow a script. So that became part of what I did was follow up questions and, tell me more about that. Go a little deeper with that piece.
Right.
So
Well, I mean,
finding
that's
the
what
story.
interesting stuff is. It's not the stuff that the initial questions. The initial questions are just initial questions. It's what they go with and what it makes them think of. That's what makes the interesting story.
Right. The pause, the hesitation, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, tell me what that is. Tell me about your pause." Yeah.
Absolutely. Did you record your sessions with them so that you would have that to go back to, or did you just rely on your notes and memory?
They were audio recorded. So not with a camera, just with an audio recorder, and then I had to upload them to the publishing company Google Drive situation, like so that they had access to them as well for quality control purposes.
Sure, makes sense. And probably a degree of
Yeah.
security because, I mean, that's the age we live in. Um,
Right, right. To protect me and the other person, for sure.
absolutely.
So,
Well, that's very cool. So, with that experience, have you ever considered having a podcast?
well, um, you are the second person in 2 days to recommend to me that I start a podcast. I've thought about it. I don't think I want to do it. Sorry, I'm about to cough. It's not a never thing, it's a not now thing because I really
Yeah.
want to promote my books and figure out how that works, and I think a podcast would take too much of my energy at this point.
And
So,
that's
I'll just be a really
perfectly
phenomenal
fair.
guest.
And nothing wrong
Yeah.
with that. No shame. And for the
No.
record, wasn't necessarily suggesting it, just asking a question. Um,
Wondering. What
yeah.
but it's weird to have that question asked twice in 2 days. Like,
Only because you mentioned having the experience interviewing and asking the insightful question. Um, but yeah, I mean, you just never know what's going to come down the pipe. The first time I even conceived of the idea of having a podcast myself, it was after my first interview when I realized, huh, this isn't scary. I could do this. And so that was the first time I even
nice.
considered the possibility of a podcast. But it took me months
Okay.
before I finally dove into actually creating a podcast. So you never know.
And how long has Molten Truth been around?
We had our very first episode in June of 2025. So just a little over
Okay.
6 months. And
It was a baby,
it's a
but you're doing
baby.
great.
Well, it took a little bit.
I'm just a baby. Have you seen those reels on TikTok?
I
I'm
don't
just a
think so.
baby.
Oh, I'm going to look for
Okay.
that.
Yeah, there's something like with little puppies like doing stupid things, and I'm just a baby. Oh, it's kind of cute.
So sweet. Man, that brings back a memory, but that's not pertinent to this conversation. But yeah. Anyway,
Tell me about your new puppy, because you got a lot of new things going on over there. New
it's been
podcast, new puppy.
it's been a crazy year, that's for sure. So prior to this puppy, I had this beautiful, beautiful Norwegian elkhound. She was beautiful, not just in appearance, but in personality. I just loved her. She had belonged to my
Hmm.
nephew as a puppy, so I knew her, from that point. And when I adopted her, it was because they needed to find her another home, and we wanted to keep her within the family. So she and I had always been pretty simpatico. But my poor Luna, she was diagnosed with lymphoma, and she progressed very quickly from diagnosis to where it was kinder to let her in her life. So I was very choked up about it, to say the least. And after a week, I was just like, I cannot not have a dog in my life. I would love to bring Luna back, but I can't bring Luna back. I can't even
Hmm.
find a dog that would be anything like Luna. So I decided maybe the best thing for me was to find the polar opposite of Luna. So where Luna
Okay.
was very sleek and kind of a certain look about her, and super hairy. I don't miss the hair. That's the only thing about Luna I don't miss.
No, I'm sure you don't. I have a husky and he's everywhere. Like,
Yes, exactly. I
bad.
mean, I always had like tumbleweeds of hair in my house. No matter how many times I swept, there goes another tumbleweed. But
I like that phrase for
She
a
would
dog hair.
dance when it was time to eat. She was dancing anytime she was happy. I just, oh, she was a sweetheart. So I went looking for another dog, and I found a family who had moved to a place where they found that it was just not kind to keep their dog that they had had for 6 years. They had him from a
Okay.
puppy, and his name is Moses. And Moses basically looks like Scooby Doo. He's just a lovable
Okay.
mutt with very short hair and a kind of a, and where she was sleek and kind of pointed nose. He's got that broad kind of almost like
The
boxer.
jowls, like
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Polar opposite, even in personality. Um,
She
yeah,
was an angel, he's a devil.
not like
Is
that.
he a
No,
terror?
no.
Okay.
He's actually a very sweet dog. He's just not the. He doesn't get all excited in the same way that she does with food, where she did the happy dance. He's like, "Thank you, love the food, but I'm not gonna do anything special for you. Sorry, I'm Moses."
So he's a
Um,
teenager.
Basically, yes.
Eh,
Um,
yeah.
just different personality things that are very different with him. But it's filling the void. She was a little too easy on me. She came from a family that didn't take her out walking very much, so she was like, you can take me for a walk, but I'm equally cool just to hang out in the yard." Moses demands to be walked not just once but twice a day, so I am getting my exercise. And it's good for him
Nice.
and it's
Very
good for
good.
me. So just a bunch of little variation things. She would eat anything. He is a very finicky eater. Lots of differences.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it works. But it's
That's
nice.
good though.
It fills a void in the home. I love my two cats. They are wonderful, but they have each other. I needed something more, and that more is Moses.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I like that for you.
Yeah,
That's nice.
it works. Yeah, but you're right. It's been a lot of new things this year. The books, the podcast, the dogs.
When did you publish your book?
Almost exactly a year ago. End of January was the very first book, which was I was I couldn't afford to go on vacation, and so I thought, well, if I can't physically go on vacation, I am going to write a vacation. So
Well,
I
yeah,
wrote a
that's
book called
brilliant.
The Seventh Minute. And are you old enough to remember the old Calgon commercials? Calgon, take me.
Yes, Calgon, take me away.
Okay,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
so that was a key thing in that book. Um, the main character is this worked, exhausted Generation X woman, um, and
The
she's just
first book is always autobiographical.
isn't it though? And so she's worn out, she's frazzled, she's a wife with two kids, and she's just had the worst long day at work, and now she's got all this drama at home. And so she just has this moment like, oh, bitterly like, oh, Calgon, take me away. Never believing for a minute, there could be any such
Hmm.
thing, but just that wish. And then she ends up in this fantasy world where
Okay.
she is basically on vacation just kind of by default. She has no memory of even having a family, although she has this nagging doubt like, I'm forgetting something, but I don't know what it is. But here I am in this beautiful place, and there's people welcoming me, and here's a drink, and here's some food, and let's get you comfortable, and let's get you kind of relaxed, and here are these wonderful activities to help you find yourself again, and we'll do this, and we'll learn this about yourself, and you know and gradually, eventually, I mean, there's still those doubts about her, like there's something missing, but then those go away, and she fully relaxes into her fantasy vacation. um
Nice. I, I just realized I haven't told you like I told you where the book was
Wait,
staged, but I haven't
yes.
told you
Tell us about your
like
book. This is about you.
anything about it. I
Go for it. Yes.
was like, I should tell you a little bit about the book
You
before
really
we end.
should.
Um, I'm just enjoying our conversation, so I'm just like, all right,
Well, you
sounds
got all
great.
the time in the world. You
Uh,
can keep on rolling.
all right, so it's about a woman, and like it starts in Chicago, and she ends up going to Northwestern to get her restaurant marketing degree. But there, she has the opening scene. There's a break-in to her apartment, and her grandma happens to have come from Minnesota to visit her and is being accompanied by her ex-boyfriend. So this is like the first scene. He comes into the apartment as it's being broken into, and so he chases away the intruder, and that's the meet cute for them. And they haven't seen each other for 6 years. They had a bad breakup. He cheated on her. It was just this messy thing. But then her grandma suggests, like, hey, why don't you come back to Pequot Lakes, Minnesota, stay at my house with me for a little bit until we figure out what's going on. And then there are more break-ins and there are more stalking situations, and they don't necessarily even know why this guy is after her at first. So part of the story is like them trying to figure out why he's after her, and then the rest of it is them, like, they figure it out, but then they have to solve the problem. And I don't want to give too much away because there's a pretty big thing that happens in chapter 2 that you're like, oh my gosh. But so I really enjoyed writing it, and second chance love, closed door romance. Just what would it be like? And I try it with trauma and with grief because I've been in that space. Even when I write fiction, I try to write those responses to those things as realistically as possible, because we're suspending disbelief with the with the plot of the story in some points. So like with the setting and with different details, I want those to be as realistic as possible when I write.
I
So
agree. I agree. I think,
that's that.
you can be entertained and still maybe learn something that can be useful in your own life. And I
Right.
like that approach in a book.
So her ex-boyfriend Jake owns this security company, and he jokes about like he owns a security company, but it's very hard to keep his ex-girlfriend alive. And it's kind of the juxtaposition of that. And yeah, so they just end up in situations where he ends up, trying to help her out. So I think it's cute and I like it, and there's banter and it's funny, and I'm excited to see what people think. I'm really looking forward to that.
I'm
So
looking forward to hearing about when it comes out. It's coming out at the beginning of March, middle of
March
estimate
31st.
March 31st. Okay.
March 31st.
Okay.
Yeah, I talked to the publisher today because I kept telling everyone March. It comes out in March. I don't know when, but March. And she said March 31st. There are two other authors that have fiction books coming out the same exact day. We're doing like a triple book launch that day with Dressed in Love Press. Sorry, mess those words up. Dressed in Love Press. And so the three of us are launching our books all together, which will
Well,
be kind of fun.
cool. Yes. Well, hopefully that'll just mean that you have a broader audience and more people looking at the books, because of if one story doesn't appeal, one of the other two might, and it may draw people that you weren't expecting. So I think that's
A
great.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly the theory for the publisher too. She's like just wants to do it all together and show us off. So I'm excited about it.
Very
It'll be good.
cool. Well, that is exciting. What's the title of the book, or do you have a title for it?
The I had to. Sorry, the working title was different than the actual title. The Lakeshore's Secret is the name of the book, and it's Lakeshore Mystery Series. So, because there will be two more. I'm working on book 2 right now, actually.
I was wondering. I was thinking in the back of my mind that you had said something about a series. So, is it a
I
trilogy,
didn't
or is
know it
it?
would be a series. Yeah, I think so. I mean, so far. Um, I didn't know it would be a series. I didn't know there would be a sequel. But there were a couple characters that developed along the way, more so than others. And then I figured out how it all pulls together, and I'm really excited for the full circle. So like just a lot of cliffhangers and surprises and all sorts of stuff. So
Getcha. Yeah, some stories just kind of develop that way, where you unexpectedly have more that you could write and you didn't realize it. And other stories, right from the get go, you realize, oh, this is going to be very in depth, and I'm going to want to do at least two, if not three books. And it's interesting how your thoughts kind of frame how that you want that to look.
yeah,
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. So let's tell our audience one more time, what is your website name?
loveunedited.com.
And then we're to a point in the program where we're going to ask a random question. Usually I have one
Okay.
in my back pocket, but I was disorganized today. So you're going to get a random question from me instead of the previous guest. So sorry to my previous
Okay, I'm
guest.
ready.
Hopefully we'll get that to the next person in line. So your random question is, if you could express your life with any particular color and the thoughts and feelings that that color conveys, what color would your life be?
Burgundy.
Okay.
Um, Burgundy. I'm a really passionate person, but not like like in your face. But I have there's like my love is hard. I love hard. I fight hard. I get angry. Yeah. So I would say just like the passion of life, the passion of writing, the passion of wanting to continue moving forward and not give up and not quit, and just that determination to move and to grow. I would say Burgundy, which is like that's a I like that question. It's kind of fun and random.
That
If
was
I were to
right.
ask a follow, yeah, that's the idea. Yeah.
You were going to say if you were going to
If
ask a
I were to
question.
ask a follow up question, yeah. Sorry, what were you saying?
No, no, that's
The
exactly
follow
where
up
I was
question?
going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If I were to ask a follow up question for your next guest, it would be, what is one quirky thing about you that you are hesitant to admit to people?
Thing about you that you are hesitant to admit to people. It's a good question. All
Mhm.
right, I'm looking forward to seeing where that leads to with our next guest. So I appreciate that. I'm so glad you came on board. I've had a
Thank you.
fun time talking to you. Hopefully, our audience
I've
enjoyed
had a
it too.
I've had a wonderful, yeah, beautiful time. Like it's been great. Like just hanging out and talking about books. Like that's I'm a dork, so that's what I do.
It works. I like that. You and I'd be hanging out, sipping coffee, reading The Far Side by side or something.
Perfect.
All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up. Thank you for joining us on The Molten Truth. If you liked our video, please like, share. Definitely tell people about Samantha's current book and the ones coming down in end of March. And we will see you on the next episode.
Bye guys.